Welcome to Stache Sports episode 20. Last night, the Steelers took on the Houston Texans in the wild card game on Monday Night Football. The Steelers have not lost a Monday Night Football game since 1992, I think they said, but last night that changed. And after looking good in the first quarter and scoring a field goal, the Steelers looked like they might have finally broke Tomlin's curse of finally winning a playoff game in 7 seasons, but that was not the case. The Steelers were down 7-6 for the most part of the whole game and could not get anything going on offense. The offensive line looked really bad, and Aaron Rodgers had no time at all in the pocket. And Aaron Rodgers, at his age of 42, is not spring chicken anymore and not mobile, and he needed that time in the pocket to be able to pass the ball down the field and get open to receivers. And yes, I know we didn't have good receivers this year too. We only had DK Metcalf, who hasn't really lived up, in my opinion, to the trade, even though I really like DK Metcalf. He's had a couple good games, but did not show up last night. He had a good quarter in the first quarter, and then in the second half, they did not target him. I don't know why they didn't target him in the second half. I don't know if it's because he wasn't open or what, but he did not get that many targets in the second half. And we need another receiver besides him, besides Calvin Austin. He's 5 feet tall. Calvin Austin is so inconsistent, hit or miss. And why didn't Arthur Smith use the tight ends? I know we lost Darnell Washington, but they said that Arthur Smith was a good coach to use the tight ends and a good offensive coordinator. Maybe there's a reason he got fired from Atlanta. He should get fired from Pittsburgh too. That was an awful performance by our offense. That was an awful performance by our offense. Only scoring 6 points against the Houston Texans. Yes, I know the Houston Texans have a good defense, but the Steelers came in hot and only scored 6 points, 2 field goals, and had so many turnovers, but only got 3 points off of turnovers. That does not help you win football games after only getting 3 points off of turnovers. But the standard was the standard. Every year, under Mike Tomlin, they had a winning season. And yes, I know it's good to have a winning season underneath a head coach and have a good head coach who's here for more than 1 year. It was 19 years so far. I do not think that Mike Tomlin will be gone. I do not think, no matter what happened, Mike Tomlin will be gone. But today at 2 o'clock Eastern Time in Pittsburgh, Mike Tomlin had a meeting with the team and informed them that he'll be stepping down and will no longer be the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers in the future. That came as shock around the NFL. And yes, I know a lot of these experts on the ESPN networks are going to be glamoring that Mike Tomlin can have another head coaching job if he decides to go that route and not TV route. And yes, I know this could backfire, but I think it was time for a change. And yes, I know I was on Mike Tomlin bandwagon for the whole year, but it was time for a change after having 7 consecutive losses, tying with Marvin Lewis with the most losses in the playoff in a row. Marvin Lewis, he's the coach of the Bengals, who was not that good of a coach. But the standard is the standard. But Pittsburgh finally decided to change it. They need a change in Pittsburgh, I think. They need a culture change. They need a new head coach. And yes, I know losing Mike Tomlin could backfire, and they might be trying to find a head coach and might have different head coaches in years to come. But I think it was time for a change. I mean, 7 years, even if we have a winning season, you knew the same result. You knew the same result was going to happen. But no matter who the team was, the Steelers are going to get smashed and not look like they showed up. Last night, the offense definitely did not show up at all. It did not look competitive in that second half and let us down. We looked forward to that game, finally thinking that it was going to be a win under Mike Tomlin, but Mike Tomlin did the same old routine and lost us a playoff game. I think Mike Tomlin had a good run right here with the Steelers, even though he has come up short in the playoffs. But we'll see what happens. We'll see who our next head coach will be. It will be an interesting offseason. We'll see what other staff changes are happening. Hopefully get a new defense and offensive coordinator, and hope we can get someone that's young and smart on offense. So that's what we need. We need a young, up-and-coming offensive coordinator like some of these teams have that are in the playoffs still. Even if our offensive coordinator that we gets picked up like the Buccaneers offensive coordinator did, we need someone like that. But we need a good young defensive coach. But who knows who we'll bring back. I don't know if I want John Harbaugh. He is 63 years old. He's 10 years older than Mike Tomlin. I think I want to go in a newer direction, a youth direction. Get somebody younger and give him a shot. Maybe try to go get Kirk Cinetti from Indiana if that's a possibility. Maybe get Shula or one of these younger OCs or DCs to be the next head coach. And yes, I know Mike Tomlin can go coach another team and have success because he's a good coach. But I think his message was going stale and old, and it was time for a change. I'm glad that Mike Tomlin's gone because I think that nothing would have changed under Mike Tomlin, in my opinion, because we've had all these quarterbacks. And yes, I know you could say that we haven't had good quarterbacks since Roethlisberger left, and this year was our first time having a good quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, even though he was 42, and didn't look all good in the playoff game near the end. It looked like it could be his final playoff game, final game in an NFL uniform. But we will see what happens with that. We will see if he goes play somewhere else or plays to the Steelers next year. And yes, I know you could say we didn't have good receiver helps. And for some reason, we did not throw the ball down the middle of the field. I don't know if that was under Tomlin or the OC. Why we would not throw the ball down the middle of the field and try to get Pat Freiermuth more involved. But I think it's time for a change. And yes, I know I could backfire, and the Steelers and Mike Tomlin can go somewhere else and be successful. And he could get eaten up in minutes like John Harbaugh. I don't know if I want Harbaugh in here. I might want a younger coach. But we will see. I think it's time for a change. I'm glad they did it. I did not expect them to do it. I thought they were going to keep a coach with the loyalty the Steelers are. I did not know Mike Tomlin would step down, making this podcast a whole bunch different and just coming in griping about yet another playoff loss. But Mike Tomlin had all of his good years. Thanks for winning us a Super Bowl, even though some people think he only won that had good help because he had Bill Cowher's roster. But thanks for winning us the Super Bowl and winning us the playoff games he did, even though he came up short the last couple of years and we got smashed and didn't look like a competitive team each year. But I know some of my friends might think that it was the wrong decision to fire Mike Tomlin, or not fire Mike Tomlin, have Mike Tomlin step down. Maybe he wants to retire and go on a TV. Who knows what Mike Tomlin would do. But I think it's time for a change. Let's look at some of the other teams that changed. The Patriots, they changed from Bill Belichick after all those years, and they are still in the playoffs with Mike Vrabel, even though they had a head coach before Mike Vrabel that didn't make it more than 1 year, but they moved on. And some of the Patriot fans might have been upset that they moved on from Mike Vrabel. And then the Ravens moved on for Harbaugh. Who would have expected that? The Harbaugh and Mike Tomlin both be gone this year. But we'll see what happens with them, and we'll see who gets the next head coach of the Steelers. I hope it's somebody young and upcoming. I hope it could be somebody from the college ranks too. I don't care. But we will see. I think it's time for a change. I love Tomlin. I love all he did for us. I know he's a good coach. I know he's well respected by all the team players on our team. And media and Aaron Rodgers liked him a lot. But I think his message was growing stale and it's time for a change. And we did not need the standard being mediocrity. Being mediocre of having a winning season after winning season, but just to get smashed in the playoffs. That's not what Steelers football is about. Steelers football is about winning playoff games. I'm glad the ownership woke up and is trying to do something for a change. Yes, it might backfire. It might be the worst decision the Steelers made. But I think it's time to try to do something different. I think Mike Tomlin, time in Pittsburgh ran up. I think it was good. I think it's good that Mike Tomlin is no longer coaching. Hopefully we get a good coach in return. We'll be talking more about that and who is coming in for interviews and then I'll do more research on who I think should be the coach on who we are doing interviews with. But we will see what happens. It's going to be a tough day as a Steelers fan, knowing all the good Mike Tomlin's done. But of late, Mike Tomlin has not been doing good. Even though he's had winning seasons, he's had lost in the playoffs the last 7 years. Time of Marvin Lewis, still a Bengals head coach. And that's not winning football. That's not what Pittsburgh wants, is to get smashed at home 30-6 in the playoff game when they're heavy, when a lot of people thought they would win and break the curse. But we will see what happens to Mike Tomlin and them. I think it's time to move on. And I know some people are going to give me backlash for this, but that's my honest opinion. I think the Steelers needed to move on and need to get a new direction. The Penguins did it last year, and I think they're looking a little better than they did last year at this point when they moved on from Mike Sullivan. I know it's rough, but this has only been the first coach in my lifetime. This will be only the first coach in my lifetime because I was not old enough to remember Chuck Noll. And the fourth coach is 1969. But we'll see what happens. Hopefully the Steelers can get a good coach, a good up-and-comer. But we will see. I'll give you my honest opinion whenever they hire somebody who is our coach. I can't wait to see who this is. It's going to be an interesting offseason. Who will our quarterback be next year? Because Aaron Rodgers might retire. So this coach is going to come in with a new quarterback probably in a new system. I don't hope it's not Mason Rudolph, because I don't think Mason Rudolph could lead us anywhere. Maybe Will Howard has a chance. Who knows? I just think Brock Purdy would be good. So let's try to see what Will Howard could do with our new coaching system. Or we draft somebody like Trinidad from Ole Miss. Or maybe Carson Beck. But we will see. Those should be in later videos when they come up to date. But Mike Tomlin, thank you for all the memories. Thank you for winning the Super Bowl. Thank you for winning the playoff games that you won. And thank you for all the winning seasons. I know it's rough as a Steelers fan when you change coaches. And sometimes it might not help out. Mike Tomlin might not been the problem, but something needed to change, and I think it's time for a change. I think Pittsburgh needed that change, but we'll see what happens. It'll be interesting to see where Mike Tomlin goes next and what kind of direction the Steelers go in on head coach. But even though I was with Mike Tomlin for a whole year, I wasn't chanting fire Mike Tomlin. Even though sometimes I did during the game when they were losing, even though they came back and won. I think it's time for a change. But we will see. It's an interesting day because the last time Kyle retired, or when Kyle retired, I was a little younger back then to really grasp it. But this is interesting. When Kyle retired, maybe people thought, oh, we're going to get a coach, but we got Mike Tomlin who let us solve his winning seasons. So I believe in our GM and ownership that they can get a good coach. It'll be interesting to see who they get and who coaches our team next year and what happens with the Steelers. But I think it was time for a change after losing 30-6 and yet another playoff blow. The last few years, the Steelers, no matter who their opponent's been in the playoffs, have got crushed. And yes, I know you can say it's on the players too, but it could also be on the coaching for not getting them revved up for the game or jacked up for the game or motivated for the game. And it could be the coaching playing call. I know the offense didn't help at all last night with Arthur Smith running a play on 2nd and 10 when the Steelers were down by 4. And I think that drive was the one that led to this strip sack fumble and the Texans going up 17-6. But when our run game wasn't working all day, he tried to run it, and it doesn't work against that Texans defense. And yes, I know the Texans defense was a lot better and outplayed us. But also Mike Tomlin, in his tenure, when we were trying to win games to go to the playoffs, we lose the close games to the Cleveland Browns that we should have been able to beat, or some of those teams like that. So I think it's time for a change. I know people are going to say Mike Tomlin could get a job like that because he's one of the best coaches. He is a good coach, but like Harbaugh, I think it's time for a change. I think we will see what happens. It could backfire, or maybe not. Maybe it was time for a change. I don't know what's going to happen at the Pittsburgh Steelers. All I know is I'll be a diehard fan watching them next year and rooting for whoever our head coach will be. And I'll talk more about our coach and if I think he'll be good when he comes to coach us. And who I think, and then from reports, who I want them to hire when they start coming out reports on who they think could get interviewed. But it's a shocking day in Steelers history. After 19 years, Mike Tomlin is stepping down. Steelers have a new head coach, the first head coach in my lifetime. Now, there's no head coaches in the pro football world that has been a head coach since I've been a child. It's going to be interesting to see what happens, to see what direction the Steelers go in. Will they get Harbaugh? Will he come from our division rival, the Ravens, and come to us? Or will we get a young upcomer? I kind of want a young and upcomer to be our head coach, but we will see what happens with the Steelers and who they get. Hopefully they can get a whole new coaching staff too, like I said earlier, and get some guys that other teams might want to be their head coaches in the future after their year. We have the players. We have a good defense. We need a quarterback, probably, that's younger. And we need another good receiver, but we might have a good chance, whoever coaches us, from the other opportunities that are open besides maybe the Ravens. But we will see who coaches the Steelers. It will be an interesting couple of weeks until we find our new head coach and who we interview. The local media is thrilled that they got rid of Mike Tomlin. It'd be interesting to see tonight if Bob Pompiani's on a nightly sports call that I watch every night at 10:35 to see what he thinks about the Steelers and to see what the fans think. But as for me, I think it's time for a change. I give Mike Tomlin all the proper credit, but I think it's time for a change. And yes, I know this video can backfire on me, and people can come out and say that, oh, it was the wrong decision. You shouldn't let him go. But I think it's time for a change. Thank you for watching Stache Sports episode 20. Let's see what happens with the Steelers. If you have any comments or any concerns, please leave them below. Thank you for watching.